Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new edition of the Extreme Time for Business show. Today, we are pleased to introduce you Mr. Adrian Gheorghita, Vice President of the National Commission for Financial Markets of Republic of Moldova. Mr. Gheorghita, welcome, and thank you for accepting our interview. How are you, and how are things going in Moldova these days?
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for hosting me today. Despite the regional tensions that are happening in Ukraine, we are doing here at the Commission quite well. We have quite ambitious plans that we need to implement, and of course, the authority together with the market.
Okay. It is quite the moment of the time when the financial results of the previous year are ready. And what can you tell us about the year 2021 for the insurance market of Moldova? How did it go?
Well, generally speaking, the insurance market in the Republic of Moldova is quite small, both in terms of absolute values, that amounts around a little bit less than 100 million euros in terms of gross written premiums, but also in terms of relative indicators, it accounts to only 0.8% from GDP. But of course, in comparison with 2020, when the market witnessed a stagnation, a decrease, the sector in 2021 performed quite well. It increased by 36%. In terms of the market structure, the sector remained the same. Around 2/3 of the sector of the market accounts for car insurance. So it continues to dominate the market. Of course, domestic MTPL, green card, and Casco. These were the main drivers of the market. Also, I would say that we had some surprises in the context of the new law on agricultural insurance that was approved in 2020. We see more interest from the market players, but also from the agricultural sector regarding these products. It basically, in relative amounts, it increased by 400%.
Overall, it seems that there are good news coming from back in 2021. Still, it was a challenging period. The end of the COVID crisis era, hopefully the end of it. Other new challenges on of other kinds. If you should name the most challenging things in your market, what would they be? The same for the most important opportunities, if there are some.
So here I would group the issues, but I would like to say not issues, but challenges into groups. So firstly, we talk about market-related challenges, and you mentioned already the COVID-19 outbreak. But of course is related to the penetration rate with the insurance services. That it turns is of course correlated with the level of financial education of the Moldovan society. And of course, the sector struggles in promoting some facultative insurance products. And because, as I said earlier, it's heavily dominated by compulsory insurance products or quasi-compulsory for some directions of business. This is one group, and the second group I would mention, of course, the regulatory challenges. Within the last weeks, we had 2 laws approved by the Parliament: the new law on the insurance and reinsurance activity, and the new MTPL law. And of course, within the next months, both the regulator and the market players will have to work hard on the development of the subsidiary legislation. And of course, companies will have some operational challenges. They will have to fortify their corporate governance structure and so on. So we forecast some increased costs related to the administration of the business, but hopefully everybody, all the market players will overcome these issues. Important point, so as you may be aware, starting with July 1st, 2023, the supervisory competencies will migrate to the National Bank of Moldova. And in this regard, we work closely with the central bank to ensure a smooth transition with minimum impact on the industry.
Yes, it will nevertheless probably be quite challenging. But speaking about the regulatory environment and the changes that are coming on this side, I would just like to ask you to emphasize what are the main changes brought by the new laws, both the law on insurance reinsurance activity and the new MTPL law. I assume that they are bringing some novelties in the market.
Indeed. So as I already have mentioned, the new law on insurance and reinsurance activity was adopted 2 weeks ago. And it will come into force on January 1st, 2023. And the regulatory, the supervisory authority, currently NCFM and then National Bank of Moldova, will have to develop a secondary legislation till July 1st, 2023. The new law basically partially transposes the Solvency II directive. Why partially? Because at this moment it was decided that only the legal provisions related to the Pillar 2 qualitative requirements and Pillar 3 reporting requirements will be transposed and implemented in the domestic legislation. And then at a later stage, the supervisory authority will conduct an impact assessment and analysis on the readiness of the local insurance market to embrace fully the Solvency II directive, and the Parliament will come with additional amendments to ensure full alignment with Solvency II. But even in this form, in this shape, the law, of course, the new law is, of course, a challenge for the market players because it imposes new capital requirements, new requirements related to the quality of assets admitted to cover technical reserves and capital. So we should work as a supervisory authority closely with market players to help them to implement and basically to implement the law.
And as far as the MTPL law, there are some changes, important changes also? Yeah,
some time ago it was decided to develop a new law from the scratch, although the existing law 414 from 2006 is also has a lot of provisions from the EU directive. The new law heavily relies on the EU MTPL directive, but with some exceptions. So firstly, taking into consideration the level of development of the market and the level of the degree of maturity, I would say, of companies operating on this market, it was decided to quasi-liberalize the insurance premiums. So the supervisory authority will continue to set the minimum insurance premiums, but the company will have the freedom to establish higher insurance premiums, but not, of course, not lower than the one established by the supervisory authority. Of course, we will see how what is the evolution, and of course, it should be decided, and the topic of full liberalization will come on the table again. Secondly, I would mention that the law contains some basic requirements that would ensure the digitalization of the policies, of the insurance policies. And I would also mention maybe with the new law brings new maximum insurance ceilings to cover the damages from different accidents. According to current law, this ceiling is quite low. It's only 50,000 euro. The new law comes with doubles the ceilings to 100 euros, but we are aware that we are far beyond those requirements that are set in the MTPL directive, and as a supervisory authority, we should take in consideration the predictability principle, and we should develop a calendar to see when we may ensure full alignment with the MTPL directive. And another also important point from the perspective of the Republic of Moldova, although MTPL directive provides that it should be one single insurance policy both for domestic and for foreign, we still keep two insurance policies. So we have a domestic MTPL and the green card. Probably it's too early still to discuss about unifying these products within a single product, taking into consideration both, let's say, the traffic that is happening along the borders, but also the costs that are coming with this unification.
It is clear that there are steps ahead towards the modernization of the market, but it's a rather long course. And speaking of that, I would like to ask you, how far do you think your market is from being fully aligned to the EU standards in the regulatory perspectives of the insurance market?
Okay, just taking in consideration the regulatory dimension, the new loan insurance and reinsurance provides a room for, let's say, for full implementation of the law up till 2025, when the companies, local companies, will have to comply with minimum capital requirements that are already aligned with what's provided in the Solvency II directive. We witness what is happening in some other countries that are not EU members, but have the same aspirations as Moldova. And I think that's why we embraced this two-steps approach. Let's implement firstly the qualitative and reporting requirements. And I hope that within 2 years, the authority will be ready and the market will be ready to make an regulatory impact assessment to see if there is enough maturity to implement the first pillar. Because of course the pillar one offers more flexibility in terms of from the operational point of view, but also from an investment point of view for the companies. But the authority should be confident that there are enough financial and human resources and capacity to implement these requirements and to apply these standards. But in other words, to minimize the frauds that may happen on the market. Because as a quite young market, I would say, and we have these elements, and we should fight with them, combat, and help companies to comply.
Well, 2025 seems far away, but in fact, 2-3 years, it's a rather short term for the volume of work you have to do to implement all these things in your market. They are rather complicated and need a lot of attention. And speaking about deadlines and targets, I would like to ask you a more personal questions because you are recently appointed in this position within the Commission, and from your standpoint, what are your personal objectives in this new role that you have assumed?
Okay, so thank you for the question. First of all, to ensure a level playing field for all market players. That means that the authority should properly conduct the supervisory activity on the market. So to allow both small and big companies to freely compete for customers. This approach corroborated with approximation of the EU legislation in the domestic regulatory framework, hopefully will lead to newcomers on the market. I hope that we will become more interesting for the players that are present, at least in Romania or other Central European countries. But also, I think it should be put a big accent on the education of the population, on financial inclusion, because without a proper understanding of the need of the insurance services for each of us, it is quite hard for companies to promote their services, and that's why I think it should be a combined effort, both activities that are coming from the players, but also the supervisory authority should have a more active role in this regard. And the last but not least, with digitization of the insurance services, at least in short-term digitalization of compulsory insurance products like MTPL policy, domestic MTPL policy. Of course, there is a lot of work, and as I dig deeper in everything what is happening in the Commission, but of course in discussion with the market, we set new objectives, and but of course, very generally speaking, to ensure proper supervision of the sector and digitalization of services.
I would say you have rather ambitious goals, and all that we can do is wish you a lot of success. Thank you very much. I hope we will hear from you soon again to find out how things are going on with all these targets that you want to achieve in the following years. Until then, thank you for the interview today. Thank you also for watching us. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Have a nice day.